All right, everybody. So on today's episode, we have the notorious Brandon McCartney, huge Colorado fan, definitely loved by all of Buff Nation and every single Colorado fan out there. Every single Colorado fan on social media knows who Brandon is. Huge Colorado fan, the grandson of the former reigning national champion head coach at Colorado in 1990, and definitely knows everything about everything revolving Colorado. Definitely been some rough past couple of years in Colorado football here. And I know you've had to go through it a little bit, but now y'all have Deion Sanders as the head coach. So you definitely have some light shining in and lots to look forward to for sure. But just dive into a little bit about yourself and what you're looking forward to heading into this year with Deion.
Well, I'm looking forward to having more than one win and not getting blown out every other week. But I'm excited to see what what the offense will look like and just all the new players that we have. We're gonna have a complete new team. Like I saw the other day that nine players from last year are going to be on this next year's team. So that's going to be a lot different. I mean, I was thinking about this earlier. I'm not going to know most of the team like I usually do. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see come opening night when we play TCU. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing how this all holds out and just having a better team than we did last year.
Heck yeah. Well, so first question I kind of want to, and I like you just kind of said how obviously there's only 9 players, whatever the number is. There's very few people that were on Colorado's roster last year that are going to be on the roster this year, which is very interesting. Because I mean, obviously Deion said that he's bringing his baggage, and
That's
he brought
Louis.
his baggage for sure, and it was Louis, but it's for you as a fan, are you disappointed that you guys lost as many players that were there for so long? Or is it just you're kind of accepting the fact that this is what you guys have to kind of accept after having a 1-11 season?
Well, yeah, when you go 1-11 and you bring in a new head coach with a completely new staff, they're gonna want their guys. So man, it's kind of and I've just accepted it because we did lose 2 really good wide receivers in Montana Lamonius Craig and Jordan Tyson, who are going to be used big time somewhere. Who knows where? But and then we've lost some really big pieces on defense. So that's really losing guys from last year's team are expected. But the 55 that we did lose, you heard that number right. 55 players into the transfer portal from last year's team because Prime basically said we don't want you. So, I mean, 55. It was expected that we were going to lose a lot of players, but I don't really know if I expected 55 new players, 55 players to leave. So that number was kind of shocking.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
But while they did lose 55 players, they gained 37 through the transfer portal, which is really just and from all kinds of teams too. I mean, you got a kid from Auburn that just committed yesterday. You had a kid from DB from Bama that just committed. You got a few from Florida State. I mean, you got Ole Miss, Michigan, Kentucky, all kinds of players.
Yeah, Travis Hunter, guys like that.
Who's the number one player in the nation?
And I mean, for you, I know you've been posting on your Twitter and stuff too. And I mean, we've talked about it in the past too, just over FaceTime and whatnot. How you think Colorado is the new DBU? And I mean, potentially, maybe, but I mean, I think we got to give it a couple of years until you can make that kind of argument. But how are you feeling with the transfer portal, all the guys that you guys have gotten? I mean, you've got to be excited. You definitely got to be excited because it's only up from here. But
I'm really excited, and especially since we got the Heisman winner of 2023, Shadir Sanders, and no, I don't know how he's going to play out, but I think that he'll be one of our best quarterbacks that we've had in the past 20 years. But yeah, I'm really excited about the players that we got out of the transfer portal with Travis Hunter. Some really good running backs. Jimmy Horn Jr. is going to be really good. He's a wide receiver out of UCF, and he was the very first player to earn a number by Coach Prime. And I don't know if you guys know that, but Deion Sanders is basically making his guys earn their numbers, and it's really interesting to me how Shadir Sanders has not even earned his number yet, when Travis Hunter has, and basically a couple of guys from last year have earned their numbers, and a couple of guys who were transferred in have earned their numbers, but Shadir hasn't yet, and he's his own son. So that's a little interesting to me.
Yeah, no, that to me that is interesting because I mean we were talking about it a little bit ago. I honestly didn't even know that, but like considering Shadur is Deion's son, you would think, and I mean like he was a good quarterback at Jackson State, and I mean we're expecting him to be good. I mean we really don't know anything for sure because I mean he's going into the Power 5, into the Pac-12, and like it'll be interesting. But he does have weapons around him too, so I mean like it's. And
my only and this is one of my main concerns with Colorado, at least for right now, when you're getting all those transfers, and I understand, and you've seen it in teams that have taken in a lot of transfers, where and my area of the country, the SEC, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, they take in a lot of transfers. What I have a concern with is all those guys going to mesh because they're all coming from different places, different areas of the country, different schools from different coaches that they have been taught by. That's my main concern is will Deion be able to get those guys to all buy into what he's trying to build, and will they all mesh and come together as a team? Because like I just referenced Ole Miss, I think one of their problems is they're getting a lot of good players out of the transfer portal, but they're not all meshing, they're not all coming together. And so that has led to, Ole Miss still not being as good as you would expect them to be. So I mean,
is that something that like you worry about, or?
Oh, I haven't before, but people have been saying like, hey, aren't you worried that like all these players aren't going to be able to play together? Like, I don't think I can really worry about them until I've seen them play, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like, I can't really worry about anything until it actually happens. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, that's obviously true. I mean, but I mean, looking at your schedule this year, I know you know it too. Y'all have a tough schedule. It's for a Pac-12 schedule. Y'all probably have the toughest schedule in the Pac-12. And I mean,
y'all end up playing the toughest teams in the Pac-12. That's the thing is y'all.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about your schedule? And like, I want to know like what your potential outcome is for like looking forward.
Open up at TCU, the runner-ups from last year. I mean,
lost their quarterback and like half of their starting defense. So I don't know about that. We'll probably win 45-42 in 3 overtimes.
What was that?
We'll probably win 45-42 against TCU because they lost their starting quarterback and half of their starting defense to the.
Yeah, I mean, I can see you guys beating TCU no problem, but I mean, looking at some of the other games, like I mean, you have USC at home, but I mean, what was that?
We are beating Nebraska. We will beat Nebraska.
You will beat Nebraska. I'll see you guys beat Nebraska 100%. I mean,
you're having a hard time.
Nebraska could be a good. I mean, I think both the games against Nebraska and TCU will be pretty good games. Obviously, you'll beat Colorado State because they're dumpster fire. Oregon. Okay, my biggest thing for y'all schedule is y'all go to Oregon. Now y'all have USC at home. That's
we've never been an
advantage there. But you go to UCLA. Then towards the end of the schedule, you go to at Washington State, who has had their ups and downs, but in the Pac-12, they're still not a pushover. Then you're at Utah, the two times in a row Pac-12 champions. So that's kind of my thing with the schedule is y'all have some tough road games going to Eugene, the take on the Ducks, who I think would be my Pac-12 favorites right now. and then Utah being the defending Pac-12 champions.
Well, going back to USC, we were 0-17 against USC all time, so it'll be nice to finally get our first win against USC in the prime era. But going back to Josh's question, I think that we'll go like 5, 6, 7 wins, and then go to a bowl game, and we're gonna surprise a lot of people. That's for sure.
I know, I agree with you. I think realistically it's probably 5, 6, 7, somewhere between 5 and 7 wins.
I could see Colorado being bowl eligible this year with a 6-6 or a 7-5.
Oh, I definitely see them bowl eligible.
It takes some time because even Nick Saban didn't build Alabama to where they were overnight. It took a couple of years to get his recruits, the guys he wanted in, to buy into the process. I mean, and Deion's going to be a great coach. I believe that, and he's going to draw in a lot of recruits. You're already seeing it. I have a little bit of beef with Colorado because they stole Cormani McClain from us.
Yeah, we did.
If it hadn't been for Deion, he would have committed to Bama. And we would have had the best defensive back class ever, even though we still did because we still got a lot of other five-star DBs in last year's
Brandon looks like he's got some beef with that. I don't know if he thinks Bama's got best DB class, but
from 2023, I mean, you look at the guys Bama had: Desmond Ricks,
thanks for
Caleb Downs.
Thanks for that cornerback who committed on Monday.
Yeah, you definitely wanted Cormani McClain. I remember you were texting me after that happened too. But yeah, no, that was huge for y'all. I mean, Deion's going to continue to from here on out. I mean, in the next upcoming
a lot of that, like and Shedeur Sanders is getting a lot of Heisman talk. Well, I mean, watch it. If Travis Hunter ends up playing both ways of the ball, he could be in serious. Like, and I mean this when I talk about Travis Hunter, is he's really good. I mean, he was the number one overall recruit in 2022 for a reason. And I know a bunch of Florida State fans are probably still mad over that, and thank God I'm not a Florida State fan. But Travis Hunter, if he plays both sides of the ball and say he does like a Charles Woodson type role where he's returning punts and kickoffs and he's playing pretty much almost all three phases, because he did play both ways in the spring game, and I understand it's a spring game. Eventually, he might have to choose which side of the ball he wants to play on. But if he ends up playing both sides of the ball and has that like Charles Woodson type impact, he could be in the running for the Heisman. And I truly believe that.
How do you feel about that with Travis Hunter?
I'm really excited about him. I've been thinking about what Brian said with him playing on both sides of the ball. Like, he's gonna have a pick 6-1 play. The next play is going to have a 75-yard touchdown, and then the next play is going to punt return for like 66 yards, and then so he could potentially have like 3 straight plays with a touchdown. So we've in my lifetime, I don't think we've had a player as exciting as Travis Hunter. I mean, we've had Laviska Shenault, Philip Lindsay, and then a few more notable players in the NFL who have been exciting, but I don't think we've had a player in my lifetime who's as exciting as Travis Hunter. So he's gonna be probably the best player in the past 20 years in Colorado football history, if not.
I have no issue with that. I mean,
I have nothing against that too. I mean, looking at the resume, nothing against Colorado at all, but there hasn't been any other than like you said, like Laviska Shenault or Philip Lindsay. Like, Travis Hunter looks like he will beat out both of those guys, and potentially, depending how he plays at Colorado, which I don't think he's going to have any problems. I think he's going to be a great athlete.
Yeah,
he dominated at Jackson State, and I don't think he's going to have a problem at Colorado at all in the Pac-12. And I mean, it's exciting to see. He's definitely probably going to be one of the best players to ever come through Colorado. And I mean, you still have him for another 2 years. So him and Shedeur, it's.
And I think what makes it exciting is that, I mean, I think Colorado and Deion's bread and butter is the defensive side of the ball, and I think he's going to build a really good defense. And similar to what Dan Lanning is doing at Oregon, I mean, he's playing defense first, and it's It's paying off. I don't like Bo Nix. So, I mean, I don't want Oregon to win the Pac-12. I highly despise Bo Nix as he was a former Auburn quarterback, and he beat Bama his freshman year. I don't want Oregon to win the Pac-12, but I think they have the best team. But no, I like what I'm seeing from Colorado and Deion. Like I said, I think it'll just take a couple years. I do think they could be in the running for one of the 12 playoff seeds in 2024, depending on how this year goes. It's going to make things a lot more wide open once we get to that point. And
100%.
And I think that that segues into our next segment. When earlier today they released what the college football playoff schedules will be in 2024 and 2025, like where locations, dates, because now they're going to a 12-team playoff, means they're going to be playing early. So say if you're playing for your conference championship, you have to get ready to. Normally, when you would have a month to prepare for the playoffs,
now you're going to have
now you have like 2 weeks only 2 weeks to prepare. So in 2024 season, the first round, which will be on campus, there'll be 2 nights. It'll be Friday, December 20th, 2024. One game. It'll be a primetime game. Then Saturday, December 21st, 2024. 3 games on Saturday. Quarterfinals will be the week later, December 31st, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Those will be Fiesta Bowl, Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl. And you got semifinals, which would normally be the week of the national championship game, which would be like the second week in January. The Capital One Bowl, Cotton Bowl, and then January 20th. It's not we don't see college football that late or that late,
And it's usually January, first week of January.
Yeah, you'll have the national championship game in Atlanta, which if the tickets aren't too high, I'll plan on going. And it's pretty much the same schedule in 2025, except it's the same bowl games, except they're swapping out the Cotton Bowl for the Chick-fil-A Bowl or the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and then they're playing the national championship in Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. I think this is a pretty good setup. The on-campus playoff games.
That's going to be something. I mean,
imagine an on-campus game at Colorado.
Exactly.
For playoffs.
Like please.
I mean, and I know you just saw it too recently. Like Colorado just sold out your season tickets for the 2023 season for the first time in how long? I don't know.
They sold out a spring game. I don't think I've ever seen that, even from like an SEC team. I don't think I've ever seen spring games sold out.
What was that?
27 years. We sold out.
27 years? Yeah, that's insane. But I mean, like, just thinking about that for you as a fan too, like next year, there's a shot, like say Colorado doesn't win the Pac-12 next year in 2024. I'm talking hypothetical. Say they don't, and you guys get an 8, 9, 10, 12 seed, and you're playing at home in the first round of the playoff. Like, just think about that atmosphere. Like, I mean,
for any team, really,
too. For any team. I mean, as much as you don't really want that game, but for me as an Ohio State fan, as much as I want to be one of those top 4 seeds, getting that home playoff game, yes, you have to play the extra game, but getting that home playoff game, like the atmosphere for that would be insane. Like, that's just something that.
And you would see teams go in like places they normally wouldn't go late in the season. Like you could see.
You can see Bama be in Colorado.
I don't know about that because Bama's usually the higher seed.
But hey, we don't know.
But hey, we want Bama. You
don't want us this year, at least. At least give it a couple years before y'all start yelling that. But because even Deion will tell you. Even Deion will tell you that.
Hey, Brandon wants everybody right now. And see, Brandon even know.
Don't even scream. We want Bama. Georgia's the top dog right now. I mean, pun intended. They're the top dog right now. You say you want Georgia.
We do.
But yeah, I think this you could potentially see like Bama going to Michigan late in December when it's snowing and cold, or you could see. I mean,
there's all sorts of crap you could see.
Exactly.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, late in the season and when it matters most too. So.
I mean, I was first against the 12-team playoff, but I think it'll be a good.
I think it's necessary. I think it's 100% necessary.
Only thing is as long as Saban's at Bama, as long as Ryan Day's at Ohio State, and as long as Kirby is at Georgia. I think that just guarantees those three teams a spot. That's just my opinion.
I think that's true.
Hold on, Brian. Hold on. Did we see Saban in the college football playoff this past year?
What was that?
Yes, if we saw Saban in the college football playoff this year.
Well, we lost. We would have if we'd have beat LSU or Tennessee. We lost 2 games by a combined 4 points. I mean, sometimes it happens. But we've made it. We've made it every other year except for 2 seasons, so I'm not too worried.
I guess that's true. And you do win.
Hey, I
look
at it like this. I just enjoy it while I have it because Saban's not going to be at Bama forever. He's going to retire at some point, and we'll probably be back to mediocrity before Saban. So
who knows?
And maybe Colorado does become the next Bama, but we'll see.
We will.
Because Kirby's got things going at Georgia. I mean,
Kirby does have things going at Georgia. That's for sure right there. But I mean,
not everybody has a 25-year-old quarterback.
What was that?
Not everybody has a 25-year-old quarterback.
Yeah, and looking at right now, like with Colorado too, I mean, Deion's building what he wants there. And I mean, everyone's going to end up meshing. And either way, I mean, like kind of like what Kirby's building at Georgia. I'm not trying to say that Deion's building that at Colorado, but in a couple of years, it's probably going to get to that point where that's going to be the culture there for sure. I mean, the culture's already there, but
only thing is like, and I don't want to bang on the Pac-12, but the Pac-12 just needs to like improve overall as a conference. And I do think Colorado or Deion being at Colorado, being in the Pac-12 will help that. I mean, yeah, you got Lincoln Riley out there with USC, but he can't build a defense to save his life, so they never win. They never win when it matters. And you have Utah out there, but then you got Oregon, and Oregon's made the playoffs or made the national championship a couple of times in recent years. But I mean, I think Deion being in Colorado will overall improve the conference too. Because
100%. Especially after USC and UCLA. Like, how do you feel about that, Brandon? With UCLA and USC leaving in 2 years, do you think that hurts y'all with Deion being there, or do you think that for you guys it gives you guys a better chance at even maybe?
I think it puts them in the spotlight. Really.
I mean,
I agree with Brian. It puts us in the spotlight because like if we can't beat like Arizona or Washington or a team who is not UCLA or USC in the Big Ten, or sorry, whatever we're going to call it when it's not the Pac-12 anymore. We will be in the spotlight because we're going to be expected to beat the teams who are not USC or UCLA, and I think that's going to hurt us a little bit because we're going to have that chip on our shoulder. But it's going to make us better at the same time because we will have all the pressure in the world to win the Pac-12 every year without Oregon and without USC and UCLA. And even if we do stay in the Pac-12 and not move back to the Big 12, which hopefully we do. But yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Do you think that potentially with the USC and UCLA leaving, do you think that maybe after a couple of years and say after they leave, Colorado does a 2 or 3-peat in the Pac-12, do you think Deion might get to the point where
is there a world where Colorado rejoins the Big 12?
Do you think
they were in the Big 12 at one point?
Do you think that that's like more likely? And like, how do you feel about that? Like, do you think that?
Personally, I want to leave the Pac-12. I don't like playing on it, to be honest. Yeah, I want to go back I personally want to go back to the Big 12 where there's a little bit better competition. And personally, in a couple of years, I don't think the Pac-12 will exist because of the forming of super conferences like you see right now. If that answers your question at all.
Yeah, no, it does. It doesn't. I mean, yeah, it is getting to the point where every single conference is kind of like, I mean, and nothing against the Pac-12, but it's looking like the Pac-12 is going to slowly just kind of diminish with the way it's looking right now. Or I mean, maybe the Pac-12 is looking to add other schools too, which I think they are. But I mean, it's looking like the bigger schools in the Pac-12, like y'all on the rise, Colorado, Oregon, the few other teams that will be left that are bigger are going to want to leave. So
now, one more question I want to
Ohio State's
ask
gonna be
before
in the
we get into some NFL draft stuff. So Deion was only at Jackson State for 2 years. I know he said he wanted to be there longer, but then the opportunity at Colorado presented itself. How many years how long do you think Deion would stay at Colorado? Because if he has success at Colorado, say he has success in the next 2 or 3 years, maybe not winning a championship, but winning the Pac-12 a couple times, making this new playoff, finding success in the draft with sending players to the draft and in recruiting. There's going to be a team, a bigger team come calling, like because I remember Auburn was in on the Deion sweepstakes too. Florida State, his alma mater, could come calling again in a few years if things don't pan out with Mike Norvell. Do you think, or the NFL could come calling? I mean, how long do you think Deion stays at Colorado?
5 to 8 years, I'm gonna say. And then if he does start, if he really does start winning, like I do think that he'll win the national championship with us, but in the next 5 to 8 years, he will be here for 5 to 8 years, and then hopefully even more. But I really don't see him backing out of a contract if a better team, like not a better team necessarily, but a bigger a bigger picture program does come calling his name, like you said. If Florida State does come calling, I do think that he might ultimately might want to go back home and coach Florida State, but I don't see that staying with them the next 5 to 8 years because he will want to prove that he can establish a winning program and keep on building and building and building and become one of the most successful head coaches of all time, possibly.
yeah, I mean, I see him. I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about the.
I throw something at you. What if in a few years, in like say 4 or 5 years, when Saban retires, Alabama comes calling? Do you think he'd leave Colorado to go to Alabama?
If that happens, I will root for Ohio State over Alabama. I hate.
Yeah, you better be. I'm hoping you're rooting for them over Alabama right now. So.
Josh. There is one thing that I do think will happen, and it's going to be that wide receiver from Ohio State, Brandon English or whatever, he will hit the transfer portal after this season.
Brandon Ennis is not going to Colorado. He's not.
He will.
He's not going to Colorado.
But no. I was just joking about that. I don't know. I mean, Saban and Deion have such a close relationship, not only from the Aflac commercials, but just in general. So I mean, and Saban's going to have a say in who he picks
100%.
as the next, or who's the successor. Now I feel bad for whoever's the immediate successor because they'll be expected to meet the same expectations. But I was just spitballing because I mean, some team's going to come calling every year.
Every year. Even after this year, say y'all are bowl eligible. Someone's definitely.
We can't do Mel Tucker again. We can't do Mel Tucker again.
I don't think Deion will do what Mel Tucker did. We talked about that before you came on. I don't think Deion will do that at all. I definitely think he'll stay through his contract, whatever. And I could see him staying past that too if he really loves the culture that he's built at Colorado, and especially with like what he's currently building with all the recruits that he's getting. Like I think that he's enjoying it, and I mean,
the one place I don't think he could resist, and he might resist like been him off for a couple of years, so is his alma mater, Florida State. I've always said this: when Mama comes calling, it's hard not to go back because Kirby went back to Georgia. A lot of Mario Cristobal played at Miami. He's now at Miami. Scott Frost, even though he did a terrible job at Nebraska, he played at Nebraska. He coached at Nebraska. It's hard for some of these coaches to not want to go back and coach where they played. And so that's just where I say now Mike Norvell seems to have things going the right way at Florida State. So that could be a good sign for Colorado in that regard. But like I said, like there's going to be a team that comes calling later, like a few years down the road. Even it could be the NFL. It could be, I mean, it could be the Falcons. He played with the Falcons. He played with the Cowboys. I mean,
Could be any of them. Who knows,
if he has that success, I mean, but I just don't. But then again, I don't see Deion wanting to coach the NFL because they're grown men. He knows how they operate. I think he wants to be with the younger kids in college. So, I mean, you never know.
I agree. I think he'd rather kind of shape them up too. Kind of in the things too that he was saying with like when he's looking at quarterbacks, whatever. Always looking for guys with like certain GPA, whatever. And then like when it's his defensive lineman, he's looking for a defensive lineman that's coming from a house with no father and just a mom and kids like fending for his life. I mean, like I think he's definitely going to stay in the college aspect, trying to like turn these kids' lives around, like give them. Like, I think he's enjoying what he's doing, and he's enjoying kind of like this father figure type role too. But
yeah, I mean, I think Colorado will definitely be on the come up this year with a schedule that is really tough. It's definitely hard to tell what they're going to do this year, but I do think they do have.
Hold up, he's got one more thing.
Speaking of us on the up and coming, hey Josh, did you hear that? We coming, baby, and Prime.
And more power to you. I mean, Ed Ogeron said that a few years ago before they won the national championship at LSU. They ended up being the best team in college football ever and winning it. So you never know. So now we're gonna get some NFL draft stuff. Did you watch the draft?
I did a little.
Or at least the first round.
Just mainly for my dad's guys, but other than that, not really.
Yeah, just mainly what. Yeah, I understand. And hey, congrats to your dad because I mean, all of his agents got drafted, and I mean that was really cool to see. And yeah, but
for me, the best draft class.
You're saying per team? Which team had the best draft class? Or?
Well, you got to go with the obvious one. It's the Eagles. I mean, yeah, they have a different mindset when it comes to drafting. Whether it's Georgia players or Bama players, they got Bama on offense, they got Georgia on defense. Like a lot of those players from that 2021 Georgia defense don't have to play against each other; they're playing with each other in the NFL. They got Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith in the first round. Then they trade up in the fourth round to get Keely Ringo. They get Tyler Steen, the left tackle, or a right tackle who can play guard. I just like, man, the Eagles. They don't have a lot of needs, but they're doing things right. Like they're getting good value. Jalen Carter, who was thought to be one of the best players in this draft, falls all the way to 9. They don't have to move up one spot to get him. And really, I don't think they would have had a trade because I mean, Chicago didn't even go with. I mean, Chicago went with an offensive tackle.
I was fine with that, but I mean, I think the Eagles did a good job, but just because they're getting these big name guys doesn't necessarily mean that they won the draft. I think they are up there with winning the draft, but I don't know. I
also like what the Seahawks did, and a lot of this comes from the Russ trade. And I'm a Broncos fan, so like I hope Russ turns it around this year. But I like what the Seahawks did.
Devin Witherspoon getting the corner,
then Jackson Smith and Jigba, which they didn't really need a receiver, but I guess they're just adding rich get richer for Geno Smith. Then they come in the second round. They get the running back from they get Derek Hall from Auburn, great outside linebacker. They get the running back from UCLA. I like what the Seahawks did.
Okay, hold up. Shifting over to some NFC North talk. I think, as a Bears fan, I think the Bears did fine in their draft. I think they
won the draft in the NFC North.
What was that?
I think the Lions won the draft in the NFC North.
You think the Lions won the NFC North? I personally, that's who I was going to say did the worst. Because I mean, I don't know. I think the Jahmyr Gibbs the Jahmyr Gibbs pick was very questionable at first, but yes, they did trade away DeAndre Swift. But at the same time, it's like I think they could have gotten Jahmyr Gibbs way further back.
Well, the thing about Jahmyr Gibbs though is they're not just gonna use him at running back. They're gonna use him like a Travis Etienne type, where they put him they line him up everywhere. I mean, because he can play receiver. He's a good catching back. He can pass block. And he's fast as hell. I mean, they're gonna already have one of the fastest offenses when Jameson Williams comes back from his suspension. But no, and their first round was a little bit questionable, but then they turned it on in the second. The Lions turned it on in the second round.
That is true.
They got Sam Laporta, a good tight end at Iowa, which Iowa's a tight end producing. Talking about tight end,
Yeah,
I think Georgia's in that respect right now, but Sam Laporta from Iowa. Then you go and get Brian Branch, who was, in my opinion, a first round player. Why these teams passed on him, I don't know. But you get a lot of good value right there.
I mean, that's true. Brandon, how do you feel about the Packers with their draft class? How do you feel about? Are you happy with Lucas Van Ness and getting him in the first round and not maybe going for someone different to help? Like, I mean, I know you guys got the tight end you got Luke Musgrave from Oregon State, the tight end, to help complement Love a little bit. But how do you feel about the Packers draft class?
I'm a really big fan of what we did. I think the Packers got a really good defensive end in the Lake Nose Monster, or sorry, Luke Van Ness, and we got really two tight ends who can play, even though we don't really know that much about the tight end from Oregon State, because he's only played in 2 games last year because of injuries at Oregon State, and but I'm not an NFL GM, so I'm just going to trust that Gutekunst knows what the heck he's doing and knows how to build a program around Jordan Love. And he did draft some pretty good guys last year in Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, and we did get a Jordan Reed from Michigan State.
From Michigan State, yeah,
is going to be one of those guys who's going to be up there with Christian Watson too. So, and we do have a history of having success with drafting really good wide receivers in the second round.
That's true.
Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, Jordan Nelson, to name a few, Jennings. Yeah, so I mean, we don't really need to draft wide receivers in the first round because
you guys have success in finding like those diamonds in the rough type of deal. You're not even like even like, I mean, you guys drafted what's his face, the Michigan State wide receiver in the second round, but like, I mean, you look at Christian Watson last year. I mean, like he's a freak. That's someone as a Bears fan that I'm not looking forward to.
No, my favorite pick in this entire draft, and is in the second round when the Panthers got Jonathan Mingo, the receiver from Ole Miss. I think that was just a great pick because you lose DJ Moore and the trade for number 1 overall. And Jonathan Mingo was a player that was getting a lot of late pre-draft hype where he was shooting up draft boards. They said he could have potentially went first round. You come up and you get him in the second round. I think that's a great pick because a lot Ole Miss wide receivers seem to pan out too.
Ole Miss,
DK Metcalf, AJ Brown.
I wouldn't consider them wide receiver but Ole Miss definitely does produce wide receivers. And I mean, Mingo was good. He was at the Senior Bowl too, and he stood out at the Senior Bowl. He had a great career at Ole Miss, and I mean, that is a good pick for the Panthers. Definitely after losing DJ Moore and then getting Adam Thielen in free agency for Bryce Young and a couple other guys. But
now the team that had the worst draft to me was the Patriots. Patriots need so much on offense. They classic Belichick. They go heavy defense. They take a kicker somewhere in here in this draft class. The Patriots just like if you want Mac Jones to succeed, if you're not gonna go after a quarterback in free agency or not, if you didn't take Will Levis when he was falling. And I like the Christian Gonzalez pick that they had in the first round. I think that was a good fit. But in the second and third rounds, I mean, you could have taken somebody to help out Mac Jones. Now, where I do think they got a good value when it comes to a receiver is in the fifth or sixth round, they took Kayshon Boutte, receiver from LSU, who was pretty good.
But just didn't pan out due to.
Well, I mean, he was good at LSU. He just, I don't know. There was some character concerns with him, but I think that's a good value pick, receiver. I don't know. Now, a lot of people I'll say this will be my last point. A lot of people said that the 49ers had the worst draft because they took a kicker in the third round and they did have limited draft picks, but the 49ers don't operate off their draft picks. They they go and get big time players in free agency and in trades. But they took a safety in the third round, and
Jake Moody, yeah.
They took a kicker, and they took Latu, the tight end from Alabama. But then you get Luter from South Alabama in the fifth round. My thing is with San Francisco, what are their needs?
San Francisco doesn't have any huge needs,
because they're so good everywhere. They're good up front on the offensive line. They're good up front on the defensive line. I mean, their defensive line is as nasty as it gets. Their secondary is always good. You got Fred Warner always in the linebacking core. Then you got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. They're able to make things work at receiver. And at running back, you go and get Christian McCaffrey, who seemed to have had a better season this year than he in previous years with the Panthers when it comes to being healthy. And then you seem to have found your quarterback with Brock Purdy, and so I don't see what their needs were. So I mean, to me, they drafted for depth.
Yeah, they definitely drafted for depth,
not for needs.
I mean, you can even ask Brandon. Brandon knows after the couple of years in the playoffs facing the 49ers as a Packers fan that 49ers really didn't need much. I mean, their quarterback may have not
really had to bring that up.
What'd you say?
Said you really had to bring that up.
Well, I'm just saying,
I just wanted to bring that didn't need to be brought up. But I mean, yeah, the 49ers, though, they really didn't need any needs. I mean, what do they need? Looking at their offensive side, like Christian McCaffrey.
I personally know what the 49ers need to win in the NFC Championship game when it really matters. That's what they need.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Brock Purdy can win them a Super Bowl or get. I mean, Brock Purdy's not the guy for sure, but I mean, he's enough. He's enough at this point in time where.
I mean, but the quarterbacks seem to work with Kyle Shanahan, though. It doesn't matter who you put there. Like it seems like I wouldn't have minded seeing the 49ers draft Stetson Bennett, but the Rams did. Like I think, or like got taken one of those quarterbacks later, and like
they should have taken Duggan. Come on, no, I love Max Duggan. I think. I mean,
he's gonna be backing up Justin Herbert, but that's not a bad thing either.
I don't think Max Duggan should have fallen as late as he did in the draft. And I feel like, I mean, I don't know, like
12 quarterbacks were taken in this draft. The most in NFL history were taken in this draft.
Insane. Yeah, and I think it's crazy that Max Duggan was the last one of them. And I mean, it's interesting. I'm happy to see the quarterbacks that were taken, but there were some that just fell so late that I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it.
I mean, but like I said, I really liked the Eagles draft. I like the Seahawks draft. I even like Broncos draft. Well, there are a few that they had. They got they got Marvin Mims. They traded up to the last pick in the second round. Got Marvin Mims to add to the receiving core. I mean, what they're doing with that is they're telling Russ, hey, no excuses this time. We go and get you. I mean, a running back. We get you tight end from last year's draft. We're potentially about to go get Dalvin Cook. I've seen rumors about that. You got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick. Now you add Marvin Mims to that receiving room, who was pretty good from Oklahoma. Then you add Drew Sanders, which I thought was really good considering he transferred from Bama to Arkansas and he led the SEC in tackles and in sacks. And then they got a white corner from Iowa, Riley Moss, but he's 6'4" and his speed. They got a safety from Boise State, and then they got a center from Oregon. So I like what they did, and a lot of good things from this draft. One thing's for certain though, I think the Cardinals are going to be terrible next year, and they're gonna trade Kyler Murray and get rid and get Caleb Williams, but.
I mean, we'll see what happens.
Do you see Shedeur Sanders being a first-round pick next year?
He's not. Is he even a draft eligible?
The following year.
He'll be draft eligible.
He'll be here in 2 years.
Second round?
No, he'll be here in 2 years.
He's saying that he'll stay. I see him staying too. I mean, especially with his dad being the coach. Like, I mean, I don't see him. I think I see him staying for as long as he really can, trying to do his best at Colorado to make as big of a name for himself as he can. But
and that comes with like NIL and stuff too, because like NIL can incentivize these kids to stay a little bit longer. But I mean, Colorado is going to be good. I think they'll be bowl eligible this year. And I think they'll just get better as time goes
They'll be
on.
bowl eligible from here on out, Brandon. That's something for you to be happy about from here on out. And I know that. I know that's enough to make you smile. So, but
Josh, what makes me happy is hearing you talking about Colorado. You didn't do that the previous 5 years I knew you.
yeah, I mean, anything's better than last year too at this point. So, I mean, Brandon's like, yeah, pretty much. I mean, it could get worse, but it's definitely not going to get worse than last year, 100%. But I mean, you got anything else to say about Colorado, Brandon?
So I'm wired, fired, and inspired, if you know what I mean.
Heck yeah. Well,
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on.
For coming on. And yeah, I mean, we're looking forward to seeing Colorado's season next year and maybe having you back on too during.
Maybe you can help us get Deion on. Or
Yeah,
Travis Hunter.
Nah, but we hope you have a great day, Brandon. We thank everyone for tuning into this week's episode too. And I mean, looking forward to what Colorado has to offer. So,
and this will be our last podcast
in the TV studio.
In the studio.
Not the last episode, in the TV studio.
Until the fall, because it's the last week of classes at South. This is finals week, so we'll be doing it through Zoom from the summer.
Yeah.
He'll be in Illinois. I mean, I'll still be here in Alabama because I don't live that far off from here, but it will be a different look from here for the summer. So
heck yeah, but thank you again, Brandon. And
we look forward to keep on. So
we come, babe.